see we are live. Happy Tuesday, besties and bosses. For those of you who celebrate, happy upcoming Thanksgiving. I know not everybody celebrates. I know it's only a US holiday, but even if you're in the US, you might not celebrate. For those of you who are celebrating, happy early Thanksgiving. I'd love to know what you are doing. Also, happy Black Friday week. I feel like this is the holiday for us as business owners, whether you are selling or not. I'm always such a big fan of Black Friday, and here's why. I don't even have a Black Friday offer for y'all, but I just love that it is such a time that we are encouraged as business owners to unapologetically sell. And I think for, especially in this group where so many of you are service driven and heart centered and, sometimes a little maybe concerned about being too pushy or being too much with selling, I think Black Friday is such a great week to just say, hey, it is totally okay to sell. It is totally okay to own your work. Like, just be unapologetic about it and put it out there. So that is personally why I love Black Friday, even though I am, like, spoiler alert, I don't have a Black Friday offer for you all because we have one-on-one offers, and there's really nothing for us to put on Black Friday for you. However, I've got clients who've got some fun Black Friday offers that I will be excited to see how those turn out for them, and I always love getting to cheer you all in the group. This is actually good for y'all to know, we'll have a special thread for your Black Friday offers. We also have a giveaway that is fun that we are giving away. I believe it's on Thanksgiving. So keep an eye out for that because it will require you to enter to be eligible to win. And I think those are all the announcements for this weekend. But yeah, we'll have definitely special promo posts for you to put those offers of yours out here. We very much encourage that in this group. And for those of you who are just joining on, say hi. I'm always trying, I think I see Tinley. I always try to pull this up in the group because it's easier for me to see. I can actually see myself here. Beautiful. That way I can see your comments because for some reason, this thing is the Facebook integration here is really weird sometimes with comments. But anyway, we are in Black Friday week. That is what we've got going on in the group. For those of you who care, for those of you who want to know, I do celebrate Thanksgiving. Usually I actually spend it with my stepson. We are close with his mom, not his stepmom, I'm his stepmom, his mom and his stepdad. We all are like a very happy blended family, but they're going to be in New Jersey this Thanksgiving. So my husband and I are delegating as the CEOs that we are, and we're going out to dinner because y'all, I don't cook. I boil water and I let my husband cook, and we're going out to dinner. So that is what we are doing, and I'll be enjoying doing some Black Friday shopping and seeing all of your offers. Okay, so let's talk about what we're talking about today. So today I want to talk strategic end of year planning because we are 40 days out from the end of the year, which is kind of mind-boggling. I feel like this is maybe an age thing where I'm like, I cannot believe we're at the end of the year, but I feel like this year of all years flew by just a little bit faster than usual. Maybe that was just my experience. I'm so curious to hear how all of you feel about that. And I feel like this is one of those times of the year. Yes, we've got Thanksgiving, Black Friday, whether you celebrate or not, or whether you have offers or not. But then as we head into December, I feel like this is a time of year where it is really easy as a business owner to kind of lose your mind. And I say that joking, but I feel like this is when things get confusing and overwhelming, and there's a lot of pressure, and there's that tug and pull of you're traveling, you want to take time off, you want to spend time with your family or your friends or unplug, but also you want to hit your end of the year revenue goals, and there's this pressure to like keep marketing, and I think it can feel very, very pressurized, for lack of a better way to say, and it can feel very, very much like, wait, am I supposed to do this or am I supposed to do this? How do I do both? And what's the right way to be a business owner? And if I do take time off, I'm going to ruin my business. But if I sell, then I'm not taking time off to recharge for the new year. Should I be planning for January? I think there are just additional questions that pop up. And also, I think it is a time of year. We talked about this a little bit in the live stream last week where we were talking about ways to bring in an additional 10K of money through the end of the year. And one of the things we were talking about, and I think this is just true, is December is a slightly different time of year just in terms of, I think we do want to be mindful of what are we putting out for messaging, what are we putting out for marketing. Availability does change for people. It's both a time where you can have a sprint with special offers, but also a time where your schedule might literally be different and your audience might have, all sorts of things going on that we want to be mindful of. And so I do think it requires just a little bit more intentional thought and planning and prep. So that's what we're going to dig into today, because I also think this does not have to be a time of year that is stressful. I have been in business for 7.5 years. I think the first couple of years of business, I didn't know how to do the holidays very well as a business owner, and I've since really learned how to do that and support my clients with it. And I now find this time of year to be very easeful, very peaceful. I think you can really have your holiday cake and eat it too, but it does require some intentional thought, decision making, prep, and planning. So today might be a little bit more of a, I don't know, kind of like a basic bitch practical live stream. Not the most sexy topic in the world, but I really wanted to have this, especially before we go into the holidays, because I'm hoping whether you watch now or in the replay, this will give you some nuggets of some things to think about so you can really set yourself up for the end of the year and to enjoy the season, because I also think this is a time of year where people end up burning out or deciding not to continue their business in the new year, and I don't want that for anyone in this group. So let me just pull up my notes here. We're going to dive into, let me just give you the bullets for what we'll dive into, and then we'll just jump right in. If you have questions for me, if you want to hear how I plan whatever we're talking about in my business, or how I communicate this with team, or how I communicate this with clients, just let me know. I want this to be a resource for you, so feel free to interrupt me as we're going through this. But I'm going to walk through the question I ask my clients and myself every year, and the intentional choice that I think is really essential, that just helps set up the holiday season and helps you start the new year feeling restful instead of exhausted. We're going to talk about simple marketing and sales adjustments and how to plan that in December, and the strategic prep so that your business can keep running, and also how to return in the new year without feeling burnt out so you can actually enjoy that time off. We're going to be like, this is going to be so simple, y'all. Like, this is all the stuff which, like, you probably kind of know this, but it's helpful to hear, like, oh, these are the things I need to think about. So none of this is going to be complicated or overwhelming, I promise you. We're going to talk about some intentional decisions and communication to have with your team, if you have a team, and to have with your clients, that I think are very easy to overlook this time of year. And we're talking about why that matters. And then I'm going to share with you what my team and I have been looking at since the beginning of November and planning around. And this is like the easiest hack in the world, but this is the hack I started implementing when I took off for my honeymoon, that we put into place, that I think makes taking time off and returning to work, like, it's like the best thing in the entire world. So I'm going to share that. Again, all super simple stuff, all stuff you're gonna be like, oh, yeah, I know how to do that, Kim. But hopefully really helpful for you to think about this time of year. And if I sound really funny, I have a cold. I never get sick. I didn't even get COVID. I live in New York City. And as far as I know, I did not get COVID. But I have a cold. I have not been sick in like 6 years. So I'm a little nasally. That's all that's going on. I feel fine, just a little congested. Okay. So let's talk first and foremost. I think what we want to think about if we're planning for the end of year, if we want to be strategic and we want to plan for end of year and beginning of 2024, I think what we first want to always step back and check in with is really deciding how you want December to look for you. Is this a time where you want to have a sales sprint and you want to hit those revenue goals, or you want to have a big push, or maybe you have an end of the year launch, or maybe you're trying to fill a wait list? Or is this a time of year where you want to intentionally slow down a bit more so that you can hit the ground running in 2024? Of course, you can have a combination of both. I have a podcast coming out on, I think it's not next week's, it's the first week of December's podcast, where we're diving into this a little bit more from the mindset side of things and how to go through this. So I won't talk about this too much, but I do think this is important. I think where business owners really screw themselves over is not getting clear and intentional around this, and then just sort of expecting December to be business as usual, or thinking December should be one way while expecting the benefit and results of the other. And what I mean by that is sort of expecting that you're supposed to have a sales sprint through the end of the year and you're going to hit your revenue goals, and like that's what you're supposed to do, but expecting the benefits of, but also I should be able to like chill out and take 2 weeks off and slow down. And those are just two competing, like diametrically opposed choices. One is not like right or wrong, but I think it can be very challenging when you're not clear on what you want and what your business need from you, and you're just hoping to get both out of a single month. And so I think this is just a really helpful thing to check in with for yourself, and for also what your business needs from you and what you personally need from your business. And I think it's also really helpful to take a look, if you've been in business for a second, to take a look at what does December historically look like for you in business. I know I've been in business 7.5 years. I know in December, a lot of my clients do slow down. So for example, I know that means I can either choose to intentionally take some more time off and slow down to work on a creative project if I want to, which is part of what I'm doing. Or for example, I will tell you at the end of this live stream, we're opening up an additional intensive in December. I just already know, like, it's not that I necessarily have a sales sprint, but I just know more clients are going to front load their sessions, take time off. We're going to have a little bit more availability because of that. So I just know then how to plan for the month ahead because of that. So not that every year is exactly the same, but that is the benefit if you've been in business for a while and you track metrics and you kind of see what the trends are in your business. These are things you start to notice. It also means that I feel great about we're taking some full unplugged time off. I feel great about that because I know that also makes sense with what my business is really going to need for me. If I wanted to have a big sales sprint in December, I mean, I could. We absolutely, I think people buy in December, we absolutely could. But I also just know that historically with my businesses, it doesn't really make the most sense, and it's actually a great time for me to slow down. So I reflect that here because I think both you can check in with what do you and your business need and want from you, and really getting clear. Again, you can have a combination of both, but being intentional with that so you're not just playing that awful game with yourself where you're saying we're gonna have a sales sprint that I expect to be the most chilled out and present with my family ever while we're on this long holiday vacation. I was just having this conversation with a client and she's going on a long holiday vacation. I was wanting to plan a really big sales sprint and event, and I was like, you can do this, but these are two diametrically opposed options, right? If you want to be unplugged with your family, I don't know this is the time for us to have a brand new event and have a really big sales push for it. So I think looking at that, but then again, also let your business history give you some information, not to create stories and not to get into this thing people don't buy in December or pressure that December has to be the biggest month ever where you hit your revenue goals. But I think that can help you to make some decisions. And the more intentional you are and clear with what you want to prep and plan for, the easier it is to prep and plan. It's really tough. And I think where people get into decision fatigue or get frustrated or just back themselves in a corner is when you expect it to be both ways or you're not clear and you're just kind of winging it over the month. So just make a decision and just get clear on what you want there. That way you're also going to know what, again, to put some planning and prep around to set yourself up for success. Either way, it's taking time off as a business owner usually requires some planning and prep as well. And I think we sometimes forget that. I think I talk with my clients about this all the time. I think it makes sense when you have a launch or a sales sprint or a special offer at the end of the year. Of course, you're yes, that's going to have some planning and prep. But if you're taking 2 weeks off, I think the brain is well, I'm just not going to be working. I don't think we're always aware of what we need to have in place to be able to take that time off. So we're going to talk about that more. And again, there's a podcast on that piece specifically coming up. But let's talk a little bit now about what we want to think about strategically planning and prepping for December when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales adjustments, when it comes to team and clients, because I think those are the big buckets we want to take a look at. So let me just grab a sip of water as well. So this is, I think, whether you're taking time off or not, I think what's really helpful to also is some of what we were talking about last week's live stream is to remember there is going to be probably some content changes and marketing changes and maybe even messaging changes you have for the month of December, even if you don't have a special offer or anything like that, simply because the conversations change online. And again, because we talked about this last week, I won't go too in depth here, but I think it's almost, I think we sound silly if we're not acknowledging the fact that there's a holiday. I know sometimes with the smaller holidays, I forget about them sometimes because I don't work a 9 to 5. And it's always oh, why am I showing up for a live stream on the 4th of July? Or, oh, this is kind of weird that I'm not talking about that. And so I think especially for December, whatever you might celebrate just with the end of the year and the new year, that is something every single person in the world is aware of. I think it is helpful to be mindful of what changes are you making to your content and getting clear. That might also mean graphics that you're including, or do you have special content that goes out? I'm making this up, but for the end of the year and to welcome in the new year. These are all simple little things, but if you can decide that now, these are some of the things my team and I end of October, beginning of November, we're thinking about, and we have stuff from previous years that we can pull. But if this was the first year thinking about that, these are things I'd want to start thinking about planning and creating in advance so we have the assets, especially if you're going to take time off, so you have that ready for you when you go. And then I would also start saving all of your assets, whatever you create that's a little different for this time of the year. Let's say you have an end of the year sale and you fill a waitlist program for the following year, right? If this is something you plan on doing every year, I really would invite you to start saving your assets and start documenting what you do, because it makes it so much this is something that will happen every year. Like, we have a giveaway on Thursday. It's the same giveaway we did last year, spoiler alert for those of you who remember, right? So it's really easy. We just pull these assets up. We might change a graphic or something like that, but this is the stuff I would want if you were my client, and for those of you who aren't my clients, that I would be thinking about for the end of the year. Again, this is not rocket science, but this is so much easier if you start thinking about it now and planning and prepping that, or delegating it to a team, than trying to do 3 days before you plan on checking out for 2 weeks and unplugging, right? That's a whole lot of work. And so I would be looking at marketing assets, looking at any changes that's different from usual. And then if you do have any special sales, any sales assets and what does that mean in terms of sales material, online material, emails, for etc. And the reason I would be looking at that now, and ideally we could have had this conversation probably earlier in November. The reason we talk about this earlier is also then I want you to compare this to when you're planning on taking some time off, because even if you're having a sales sprint, my guess is you're taking some time off at the end of the year. Most people do. And really being cognizant of the limited window of time you have there, so that you can start batching some of your material ahead, and also look at then what do you need to have prepped and ready for you while you're taking time off. Right, so if maybe you're still selling while you're taking time off, or maybe you want to continue to have marketing go out, how can you start thinking about that now, so that you're not in that scurry right before you take time off? I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but this is my like number one hack for taking time off as a business owner, and I wish I could give credit where credit is due. I don't know if this was my coach or my OBM at the time. When I went on my honeymoon, this is what I did, and it was like the biggest gift I gave myself as a business owner. Not only do we make sure everything was planned and prepped like we're talking about, and just really clear in terms of marketing and sales material, so that then I could communicate with my team, so that we could, in terms of like who's responsible for what, but so that we have plenty of time to create assets, that I could do my part of that, so that things could be scheduled, so that my business was continuing to market and sell for me while I was away. And that's what I want you to think about with the holidays here, and why I think this is helpful to think about, even if you're not having a sales sprint. And if you're taking lots of time off, ideally you're still going to have some marketing going out for you. Just because you're not showing up doesn't mean your business can't be showing up to market for you. And of course you can take a couple days off over the holidays, but I think it is helpful to have some presence continuing to go out. And what I find so valuable then, if you're taking time off, is to also look at least into the first week of when you're coming back, and to plan for a full week in advance of when you return, and to create those marketing sales assets in advance, so that when you come back to work, let's say you're taking off through January 2nd, when you come back to work January 2nd, you're not already feeling behind and like you have to play catch up, because you've already got all of your marketing and sales assets created. And ideally, and this is what my team and I are discussing right now, we're looking at what is the marketing we're doing for the whole month of January. I have a conversion, spoiler alert again, we have a masterclass at the end of January, right? We're planning that now, so that those assets get created, right? Team is on board, because team's also going to take time off, right? Everything is prepped. We know what to talk about in December to prime people for that. We know what we need for December. We know what needs to be prepped so that I can take time off, so team can take time off. I have stuff so that when I come back in January, right, I'm not like scurrying, trying to catch up to get things out, right? That first week, I can just ease back in, because I know clients are probably going to need a lot when I come back. They've taken time off as well, so I can be really focused on that. And we also know then what we're showing up for in January, so we can just hit the ground running. Because I think one of the biggest challenges, and hopefully that made sense the way I walked through that. Let me know if anyone has any questions. And this is also not like the right way to do things. I have just found this to be very helpful in terms of looking ahead, prepping assets, but also strategically when you know what is coming up ahead of time, not only is it helpful to have things prepared and ready to go, I find it's really helpful for you in terms of knowing what messaging and content to start creating that is going to surround whatever you're selling, whether that's a free event or a paid event, because the more cohesive that is, I think the easier it is for your sales and for your conversions. And I also think it's easier for, if you have a team, I think it's a lot easier for a team when you know these things in advance, because they know what to start pulling or what to assign to you or what they need to start preparing. But of course, this isn't like the only way you can plan and strategically plan the holidays. But I do find in particular having, even if it's 2 days when you return from taking time off, having your assets for marketing, like forward-facing marketing in terms of social media, emails, whatever's going out to your audience, prepped and scheduled, so that that's not something you have to catch up with, is such a game changer. Because I think one of the biggest challenges for business owners that I hear from, and that I've heard from clients in the past, I think most of my clients do a really good job of this, but I think it's that feeling of like the new year starting and you already feel behind. And I think that is like, oh, what a horrible feeling, like the new year starting and it's, you know, all of the new year magic, and to feel like you're already behind or you're already playing catch up, or like you need a vacation from your vacation. Like, I think these are all feelings that we, like, what can we do to minimize that and to set you up for success is my ideal for everyone. Oh, there is a comment. See, let's see. Why? Oh, Tilly says here, giving me so many ideas as a team member and someone who runs a team. This is all landing for me. I'm so glad. I'm also going to talk team stuff, so I'll be really curious to hear your thoughts, Tilly, on team. And thank you. I now know where to see the comments, because I think team is a really big part of this as well. This is maybe helpful, Tinley, for you as well. I will give my coach credit for this. My coach and her COO, Megan. This is something I'm going to mastermind with multi-6 and 7-figure business owners, and so we get support with team and system and processes. And one of the things that they really drilled into my brain, and I'm just losing my thought now. This is cold brain. One of the things they really drilled in is starting these conversations really early in the year, like October, which I think when I had a smaller team, that didn't make sense to me. And now that I have a larger team and there's more moving pieces, I just see how beneficial it is to start. I know we're having this conversation at the end of November, but just for everyone to be thinking about for next year, and the benefit of really documenting as a team what happens that is different from your regular process this time of year, because ideally it's going to be the same thing next year. And so, Tinley, if that's helpful to hear, again, I want to give credit where credit is due, but that's something we're big on both having a different process for this time of year, but also having replicating that and updating that as needed, so that, especially since my team, I'm very grateful, has been with me for a while, it just gets easier every year. And especially for example, I have a client who has a Black Friday sale. It's really easy for her this year because she set up the assets last year and the process last year. So this year, it's sort of like she just gets to rinse and repeat it. And I think for everyone, as you're hearing some of these things, I would be really thinking through, how can you set yourself up to be able to rinse and repeat this next holiday season? Because probably it's going to look pretty similar for you, right? Like, there's going to be Black Friday, there's going to be end of year planning. So that, I don't know if that's helpful to hear. Tilly, is probably what you do as well with your people, but that feels important to say there. I just wanted to see here if there was something else I wanted to throw in, because I want to talk about the team and client piece. Because I kind of went off on a couple of tangents here. Again, we talked about, I think, sales strategies and everything on our last live stream, but I would also, again, just with the same, like prepping your assets, looking for the month, looking at the month ahead, I really want to encourage everyone, because I've been talking so much about how next year's results start now, and that ideally your business doesn't stop marketing to December. And I want you to hear a couple different things from that. One, if you intentionally decide how you want December to look, if you plan and prep, there's no reason you can't have marketing continue to go out even if you're taking time off. And I also do think December is a different month than the rest of the year. And so what that means for you in terms of what marketing goes out might also look very different. And so this is the other and then we'll kind of move into team things and client things here. But one of the other things I'm looking at with my team and that we're making decisions around are things like, well, okay, so am I going to do a live stream the week of Christmas when I'm taking time off? I love you all so much, but no, I am not. Just like when I went on my honeymoon, right? I was taking a full week off. I'm not going to show up to a live stream. And so I'm sharing that and reflecting that here because that means that is something I will not be doing in my marketing. And that means I need to make some decisions around that, or I don't have to. But I think I want to reflect that here because I think we here continue to market through the month of December, and it can be easy to think, oh my God, I have to keep doing things exactly the same through the month of December. And of course you don't. I mean, you can do far less marketing. This is also a month where people are busier and they do have less availability, and I don't think things have to run the same way. I think, remember, showing up to market does not have to mean it looks exactly how it does the rest of the year. But the big difference is, are you being intentional around that and clear then how you're going to show up the rest of the month? And I think it's really helpful then if you're taking time off, for example. So I'm not going to go live. I'm still debating if we're going to have a podcast episode that week or not. I actually have not made a decision on that yet because I could just record a gazillion episodes. But that's neither here nor there. But one of the things I know, for example, we're not doing a live stream. So one of the things we decided a couple of years ago that I do is I usually send out an email to everyone with like our top favorite live streams from the year. And that is a piece of marketing that goes out to my email list that I don't have to show up for, right? That's something we'll prep now and it'll get scheduled and we'll go out. And I think it's super valuable because there's a lot, we have 50, that means we have 51 live streams for the year. I'm guessing everyone did not make every single live stream that I had. We'll pick the ones that were the most beneficial. So I think it's super valuable for my audience. And it's also a way to have us, I think it's a fun end of year wrap up type of a thing, but it's also a way for us to continue to share value without me having to show up. Now, you don't have to do that. Of course, you can just take time off. You don't like have to do at all anything like that. Not necessarily like me saying you need to create extra work for yourself, but these are the kinds of things that I think are helpful to think through and to look at what, yes, we want to keep having marketing go out, but what might change in the month of December for you, meaning are you not going to show up for things the same way? If you're taking time off, what might you not want to have go out? Do you want to have something sub in for that? I think just even checking, and then on the sales front, checking in with availability, I think availability can change a lot. And so thinking through that in terms of what you're prepping for your December sales, if you are having more of a sales sprint, are you like me where it's like maybe some people are traveling, so actually weirdly I have a little bit more availability? Or is it like, hey, I'm taking a bunch of time off, I have limited availability, so everything is getting pushed to a wait list, or we have no availability? Whatever that is, how can you be really clear on both? Is there anything with your marketing that needs to change that you're not going to be doing? And same with your sales. So you're not just doing what you're doing the rest of the year. I think that's where we just get ourselves, we're just going to back ourselves into a corner, or don't set ourselves up for success, because I think this can also be a time for some of my clients. December is their most profitable month of the year. And that happens when you've planned for it. Otherwise, it's tough to have that happen, or if that happens, that can be a very rude awakening when you're planning on taking that time off. Tinley says, receiving huge permission to show up during the last 40 days of 2023 in a way that feels good. Of course, there's a strategic way to do everything, but it's much more important to close the year out with aligned action, intentional space than force pushing. Frickin' men. Oh, there's also, okay, yeah. I thought there was another comment. Yes, that is the whole thing. And I'm gonna I'll tease the podcast we have coming up. I'm just because you're speaking to this, Tinley, I think it's worth everyone hearing this. I think really also understanding everyone, as you're watching now or on the replay, there is literally a benefit to a sales sprint, just like there is a benefit to slowing down. A sales sprint is great if you want to, and it feels intentional, and it feels aligned in how you want to show up. I know for certain people, that feels just really good to close out the year that way. And then of course you get the extra sales and the revenue and the marketing push. And there's also such a benefit to intentionally slowing down. I don't know about you all, but when I slow down, when I take time off and I fully unplug, that's when I get my downloads. That's when I get recharged so I can show up for my clients really well, right? That's when I sometimes I have one client who takes a full month off in the summer, and to talk about strategic planning, she plans that so well. She's a one-on-one coach. She takes a full month off, and I think she does such an excellent job of plan, like everything we're talking about here, what we're going to talk about with team and clients in a second. But she always comes back and she's like got notebooks of content ideas, because I think that is also one of the benefits of slowing down, and obviously to rest and recharge and to enjoy your life and to enjoy the fruits of your labor and to enjoy the money you've earned all year and time with your family. And the reasons most of us have a business is for that time freedom and just enjoying life. And if you need the like business benefits, there are also like when you have that white space, when you have that downtime, I think that can be some of the like that's when you get your $1 million ideas. I had some downtime recently, and I'm creating something that will not come out until like far into next year because of my my schedule and how long it's going to take me to create this with my one-on-one schedule. But that idea came to me not when I was working and hustling. That time came to me when I had a long stretch of some really unplugged downtime. So just wanting everyone here to see there really is a benefit to either, and really getting clear on, and you can have a combo as well, but what you actually need and what your business actually needs, and then making what you choose right instead of picking one and making yourself wrong because you're not getting the benefits of the other. Because if you're having a sales sprint, you're probably not getting that downtime, you're probably not going to get the creative downloads, and that's also okay, but don't make that wrong either. Okay, thank you, Tinley. You gave me I wanted to go on a little rant there. Okay, so let's talk the other pieces I wanted to dig into here before we end this live stream are the essential decisions and communication to have with team and clients, why this matters, and how this sets everyone up for success. I think this is the place that sometimes with end of year strategic planning, the ball gets dropped. And again, I think this is one of those things you're gonna hear that's gonna be like, duh, Kim, this is so simple, this is so basic, but also these are things we just don't always think about. Or this is sort of like your first season going through the holidays and planning. Sometimes it's like we just don't know what we don't know. Like we don't know what to think about planning and prepping for. So one of the things, and this is also a shout out to Lacey and Megan, because this is something I feel like a couple years ago on one of our mastermind calls, I got drilled into my brain, but it was so helpful for me to think about and to start thinking about early November, right, end of October, is it's not just my time off and what I'm doing, but it's also is my team taking time off. And one of the things we do is check in with team and try to find out as early as possible what team's planned time off is so we can make adjustments accordingly. Some of my team also like to work over the holidays, right? They don't have the same holidays that I do, so I also want to know that. But I want to know, for example, I'm making this up, but let's just say I did have a big sales sprint. Let's say I was launching something or not in November, but half of my team is taking time off. That's really going to have me make different considerations, either in terms of our launch schedule or planning and prepping. What I'm not going to do is expect my team to not take time off and to have to like hustle and grind it out. I also want to be aware as a CEO with a team and having team that is not full-time for me, that they likely have a bunch of other people that they're working for, that they're on teams for, that are also planning time off and also probably batching things out ahead in advance, which means oftentimes we have this chunk of time that is a little bit busier for our team members and for us if we're batching things in advance. And so I want to know the best of my ability. I want to communicate with team. I want to know this. I want to know what people's availability is, both when they're taking time off, but what their availability is, so that we can plan and prep and delegate accordingly. Because it's, I think, really unfair to your team if all year long, let's say a team member, I'm making this up, let's say they have 20 hours per month, they're doing these certain things, but because in November and the first 2 weeks in December, you want to plan for your time off, you're expecting them to suddenly be available for 30 hours so they can prep that stuff in advance. You have to imagine if that team member has 5 to 10 other clients and everybody expects them to give them 10 more hours, how effed is that, right? So I think just being mindful, and I think the more you can get clear and communicate that in advance and both know what your needs are as a business, but also what your team's availability is, the easier you're going to have in terms of time, in terms of planning and prepping for success for whatever your goals are, whether that is planning to fully unplug or to have a sales sprint. Sometimes, in some ways, I think fully unplugging almost requires more prep work. The other thing is with this, we're also looking at things like if I know, I don't know, the podcast isn't the best example because we we record that so far in advance, we could get it edited. But if I knew that my editor was taking all of December off or something like that, right? That might also inform what I'm going to decide to do, where I might then have fewer episodes in the month of December, as opposed to trying to just make everyone hustle and grind it out. Other business owners might not have that perspective, but I do think this can also help you just make some decisions, not just, hey, am I not going live because I'm off for a week when I'm traveling and with family, but also, if my team is off, do we want to make some adjustments? This is maybe a better example. On Instagram, I do the bite-sized biz lessons, the video lessons, and in the past, team would leave the captions under them, and they would post those for me. And now we do the automated captions, but they used to write those out, and that meant a team member needed to be available the day of to post those. And so this, for example, was something in the past over the holidays, we're like, well, my team members are going to be on vacation and taking time off. I'm not going to expect them, for how we do those 3 days a week, to show up and to do that just because that is what we always do. That means for those weeks, we're not going to have those bite-sized biz lessons go out, and I'm either going to decide to just not do them, or we're going to decide to replace them with something else. Do we want to schedule something from the archives? We usually just decide to not do anything else. I don't think that over the couple of weeks of the holidays, people are necessarily needing to consume extra content. But this is what I mean by communicating with your team in advance, both for planning and prepping, but also so you can make some of those decisions and make decisions that are actually going to serve your business, instead of making decisions just because it seems like the right thing to do, or really arbitrarily or in a vacuum. I think that's when things can feel really sticky this time of year. Tilly says, got my current group program idea sitting on a 2-hour train ride with a dying phone. That space is so needed. I mean, all the best ideas on a train when your phone is dying. For me, it's always in the shower or like on a walk or in the run, right? Or on a run. But usually when I've also just had like lots of just time to like daydream and think about nothing. Yes, so there with you. I love that evidence. Was there something else with team I wanted to say? So I think just being available for that, and then also just being available. There might be certain things, like we have team engage and post in Facebook groups for me, for example. I expect my team, and I know my team is going to take some time off. So that just means that marketing isn't going to happen. I think sometimes we hear, and this is why I want to keep clarifying this idea of, yes, keep marketing in December, but also marketing in December can look different than it does the rest of the year. And so we're still going to have marketing go out, but it might look different than it does the rest of the year. I'm not going to be frenetic and be like, well, this team member is off and we're not getting to do that, and so we need to find a sub, or I need to do that on my time off. No, it just means that part of the marketing is not going to happen, and that's okay. And we have enough going out, and it's also the holidays, and people, I don't think, are hanging out in Facebook groups the same way. But I think these are things, if you know in advance, you can just make those decisions, but also not spin yourself out. But I want you to keep hearing, yes, I want to encourage everyone to keep marketing and selling through the month of December, but that doesn't mean it has to look the way it does the rest of the year. And so checking in with your team and communicating with your team, I think, is really important. That also means communicating with your team when you're taking time off, I think, can also be very helpful, especially for those of you who have an OBM or a right hand, because otherwise it's really tough for team, especially if you have someone who's helping you plan these moving pieces, to know what needs to be adjusted if you just let them know 3 days before. And I'm almost laughing there, but I think this is sometimes what we do, right? We expect people to be mind readers, or it's like the week before, 3 days before, we're planning on taking 2 weeks off, that we're like suddenly going to scramble all these pieces together, or we're frustrated that our team didn't ask or know that we needed these things prepped in advance. So just check in with these things. What I would recommend for everyone is December is not the time, unless you just have this download of this thing that you have to do. I would say December is probably not the time to like decide to create a brand new program, or decide, you can launch whatever you want, but in terms of like expecting your team to be available for the back end to create something brand new for the first time. Don't do what I did before my honeymoon. I learned my lesson. I was like, oh, I'm going to do a 5-day podcast series, and I like decided that weeks before I was leaving, which meant I gave myself a really short window, me and my team, to prep that so that I could then unplug before taking time off. If you're taking time off, like maybe plan whatever that is for when you come back in the new year. Okay, I want to talk client piece, and then Dylan, let me know if you have any thoughts, reflections on this as well, because I know you're our team, our OBM genius. Okay, so the other piece here, no, I have one other, we're going to talk clients in a second. What I said here, and I think this is just important because I made myself a note on this, I think making these decisions and communicating with them with the team, but I think this is also very helpful for you. And if you don't have a team, I would still communicate these decisions with yourself and pretend you have a team, because the more clear you are, the more you make these decisions over the next week, and the more clear you are on what your time off, what needs to be done, the more you're going to minimize decision fatigue as you're moving through the month of December. I think when you get into December, because you're going to see people doing both in the online space, especially as we get into Black Friday, post Black Friday, it is just so easy to take your eyes off your own paper. It's like, that person has a Black Friday sale, or that person is selling out their wait list in December, or that person is whatever it is, right? To start second guessing what you've decided. And then that's when we start getting really squirrely and really get clear. And I would invite you to write down what your decisions are and what your plan is, even if you're running solo. Down the road, you're going to have a team. You can share that with them. But also so that you can really anchor this in and come back to that. It can be your true north through the month of December, because otherwise it will be easy to either spin out, get into like that squirrely mode, or to get into that decision fatigue where, you know, when you like have a pocket of time, you're like, but I don't know what I should be focused on right now. Should I like batch my content, or should I be selling, right? Like that's when I think we just lose so much time in our business. The other piece here that I think is really important for those of you who are working with clients, which I think most of you are. I think most of you don't just have courses that are sort of like sell it and then like set it, forget it. For those of you who are working with clients, I think it's also really helpful to start thinking about now what time you're taking off, and to communicate that with your clients early and often through the month of December. And for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's just helpful to let people know. And I think most clients, for most of you, whether it's one-on-one or in groups, I find most of us feel a sense of safety, or feel safer in any container when we know what the boundaries are and we know what the expectations are. I find, especially if you're working with people who are highly sensitive, heart-centered, service-driven, caring, thoughtful individuals, I find it's less likely that they are going to super push on your boundaries as much as it is that they're going to not know what to do and how to act as it gets closer to holiday time, or when they're thinking you're taking time off if you're not communicating that. And I think it can just make some people feel almost like they can't use the container, or they don't know if they're allowed to, depending on what that is you offer. Conversely, I think if you also clearly want to set boundaries around your availability, it's, I think, very helpful just to help people get the most out of whatever it is you are offering by letting them know in advance, so they also know how they can adjust accordingly. Just making this, let's say you're an editor, and let's say you're a podcast editor, and you take 2 weeks off in December, and some of your clients will still need services. It sucks as a client to find that out the week before you're taking time off, because that means as a client we haven't had time to adjust accordingly to get material to you, or to let our team know, like, right, we're expecting kind of things as normal. Whereas if this is something you do every year and you let clients know in advance, but you're like, hey, and here's the solution for you. That means if you want to continue having the same number of episodes edited in the month of December, I ask that you get them to me by this date. Or that means that I recommend, we either do that or you do fewer episodes in December, but you give some sort of heads up timeline and a solution for how your clients can benefit or respond from that. I think that is so serving for clients, both, again, so that people know what to expect, and so that their own nervous system feels good in terms of leaning in for support, because I think people really do sometimes feel bad otherwise. If you're someone who wants to work over the holidays, right, I have a team member who likes to work over the holidays, but I need her to clearly tell me that, otherwise I'm going to feel horrible having her work. And there's certain things where I'm like, no, we're just not doing that over the holidays. But she likes to have some stuff to work on. But because she's communicated that with me, I feel okay giving that to her. Where I have another client, team member who I know completely takes time off, but knowing that, it makes me feel really good about not giving something to one team member, giving something to another team member. Otherwise, I wouldn't know what to do over the holidays. And similarly, it also really helps me plan as a business owner accordingly, not just based on my schedule, but based on my team's schedule. And so this is for me because I'm the client in this situation, but it's the same for my clients and for all of your clients. So getting clear on that and just communicating that, and then communicating what adjustments, I think can go a really long way in how you hold your clients and in the way they feel served. And it can be as simple as sending a couple of emails out over the month of December, right? Maybe one at the beginning, maybe one before you take time off, maybe 3 max, but I don't think it needs to be overkill. But I think it can be very helpful to let people know, especially if you have any kind of service where maybe you're not. So for example, for me, I have Basecamp, I have between session support. So someone can't book sessions, so I'm taking time off, but it's helpful for me to let clients know, am I going to be available in Basecamp? Am I not going to be available? I do content review for clients. Am I going to be available for content review or not? And if not, when do they need to get something to me for me to review that? So I think these can just be, and your businesses all might be simple, completely different, right? I gave the podcasting example, but I think just getting clear on how does your time off or not time off affect your clients, and how can you communicate this with them clearly, simply, from a place of service, not from a place, you don't need to apologize, but how can you let them know, and how can you give them enough of advance notice so they can adjust accordingly if they need to make any adjustments for themselves? And how can you also let them know what those parameters look like? I think some of the most helpful things, again, we can do for clients is to really spell out containers and to really spell out expectations and to really spell out boundaries. So if you have, for example, let's just say you're going to Europe for 2 weeks and you're going to unplug completely, can you let your team, can you let your team know as well though? Can you let your clients know? Can you let them know what those boundaries are? And then can you also know what this means for them? I might literally use that language in an email. So what this means for you is, get your materials to me by X date so that we can have a turnaround on time. Or if you get something to me by X date, expect it to be returned to you on X date when I get back into town. Or any messages, continue to use the Voxer support, let's say a Voxer support. Continue to use Voxer support while I'm away in Paris, but please know I won't respond to anything. And when I get back, please expect a week before I respond to everything. I'm making things up here, but the more you can communicate and the more you can let people know, here's what to expect, and here's how we're going to handle that, or here's what you can do, or here's how you can still get the benefits from your container, I think the better. And I think just the more everybody feels served and doesn't feel confused, but also the more you can feel, right? This is for your clients, but it's also for you. If you set this up in advance, then when you take time off, you can just breathe a fresh, knowing, like, you don't have to worry about checking things, not like worrying, like, is there a message in there you're supposed to check, or does someone not know that you're not going to get back to them, right? Because you've already communicated that, you can just go and enjoy your time and actually get that white space we're talking about and all those fun creative downloads, or just rest and recharge. Whereas if you haven't done that, right, that's when we're worried about, like, do I need to check messages? Is this client mad at me? I think that's when you can spend your whole holidays spinning out or kind of freaking out. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I think that, again, could just make a very, very big difference. Is there anything else? Hopefully my nose doesn't start running while we're live. That is like the grossest thing ever. I'm just seeing if there was anything else I wanted to share with clients. I feel like I had one other thought that just slipped my mind with this. I had a thought in here. I had one other thought I wanted to share with you, but it has completely slipped my mind. It had to do with the team and client prep. All right, well, it can't have been that important. But overall, I think the big picture thing here, seeing this was all really simple stuff. And the reason I wanted to have the conversation here is not because it's like some crazy, like, complicated thing for everyone to do, but this is something I think a lot of people just aren't thinking about, or think about it when it's 3 days before they leave town. And the more you can start thinking about this now and start implementing and prepping and planning and prepping intentionally, and having that communication, having those conversations with your team, with yourself, with your team, with your clients, the more that's going to set everyone up for success and everyone up for having a really great holiday season, and for you and your team and your clients to all get the results you want, whether that is, again, that sales sprint or that intentional time off. And I think this is, again, all super simple things, but just things I would be thinking about implementing. I'm just going to see if there's any other question. No, I don't think there's any other questions. I'm going to wrap this up, but if you have any questions on the replay, let me know. If I think of that other piece I wanted to share with you, I'll hop on and leave it in the comments. And as I'm wrapping this up, if you're listening to this and you're like, this is actually making me think, I want to start planning for January. I heard you talking about January's marketing, January's sale, like what am I going to be doing in 2024? Or I could really use some help setting this up with my clients and my team. And I hear what you're saying, Kim, but I got a whole bunch of ish coming up around setting those boundaries with my clients or having that communication with my clients. Or overall, you're hearing this and you're like, wow, I could really just use some help getting really intentional and strategic with my marketing, not just through the end of the year, but overall my business, because I'm realizing I'm just kind of like throwing stuff out there as opposed to having a really clear, intentional client and customer journey, or ladder as I call it, and a really clear plan on knowing what myself and my team show up for every day, every week, every month. That is what I help my clients with all day, every day, along with giving them a loving hard time when they're getting in their own way. And I would love to support you. We are opening up an additional intensive in December because of all the reasons I just said. So I do have a little bit more availability in December with some clients traveling. So we will open up one of those in December. I could possibly have my arm twisted for a second one, but I need to see how sessions are actually booking in December. But we definitely are opening up one. Also starting to talk to people for January spots. We've got, I think we still have one intensive in January, and we've also been chatting. I'm chatting with someone for a VIP weekend in the new year, and we haven't talked about those a lot. And I put that out here that we do have some VIP weekends open in 2023 that we can also do virtually. I think they're way more fun in person in New York City, but that's also something to do virtually if ongoing support isn't quite where you're at yet. That's my personal favorite because I love to work with people forever, but those are the different possibilities for working together that we have. So I'll drop a discovery call link here after our conversation. I will also drop a link for those of you who prefer to have a chemistry test to see what it's like to work together. I do have a mini coaching session, a 100K CEO mindset and strategy session where we can take a holistic look at your business and identify what those right gaps are to focus on and to close to set you up for reoccurring 10K, 20K plus months in your business. And that's also a great way for us to assess what we would work on in an intensive or a VIP day or that ongoing coaching. So either way, I'm happy to help on a call, either way, whatever feels better for you, consultation or that free session. So I will drop those for you, but in terms of availability, we definitely have one intensive in December, and I would love to support whoever that is right for. And oh my gosh, I just saw your comments. Tinley says, yeah, she does. Kim's the best one-on-one coach I could have ever asked for. Oh, I love you so much, Tinley. You're also like just the best client. I love you so much. I love all my clients, so other clients watching, I'm not singling anyone out, but I love you. Tinley says, give me that hard time, hold such potent safe space. It's why I love you so much. I love you that you let me give you a hard time, but you know that I only give you a hard time because it's with so much love. But I love you for saying that. Thanks for being on the live here. And I will, since you're giving me a shout out, everyone as well, I don't even know, Tinley, I don't know if you have spots, OBM spots. I feel like you're fully booked forever and always are fully booked. But I know you have some awesome offers coming up because Tinley is an excellent OBM, but she's also an excellent launch strategist and business mind and coach. And Tinley, I'm just going to shout you out. Feel free to drop anything in the comments since we're having that love fest here. All right, y'all, I love you so much. Have a happy Thanksgiving. If you celebrate, enjoy. If you don't celebrate, enjoy this week. If you're having Black Friday sale, have so much fun. Sell your face off. Enjoy the beauty of just being unapologetic this week and sell, and to see how good that feels to take up space with your offers. Please share them in the group. Remember, on Thursday, we're going to have a giveaway, so look for that. Friday, we'll definitely have a thread for your promos. And enjoy the time. Enjoy shopping if you're shopping, and I'll be back next week. Bye, y'all.